Hello everybody, Turiosaurus here. Hope you're all doing fantastic. I'm doing great, thank you. So today I had the idea for a new mini-series that I think we should do. So long story short, the inspiration for this series came from a Twitch person that I'm watching, a streamer, if you will, by the name of USCPresident, who I will link down below in all of these videos if I remember to. Hopefully I will. I will at least do so in this video. And USC, or Prez as a lot of people call him, he's pretty good. You know, he's a very lively streamer. He's active, which is awesome. Makes him fun to watch. And recently, probably about, I don't know, 5-6 days ago, he started playing M&B Warband, which is how I found him, because I follow the game. Not many people stream it, so when I find someone who's any good at streaming, who's streaming this, pretty much instantly start to stalk them to see whenever they come online, which is what I did with him. I'm now following him on Twitch for that exact purpose. But in watching him play it, and not being someone from the genre either, you can tell that he's played games before, right? He's got basic video game skills, but clearly not someone who's played this type of game before. I see a lot of struggles with him. And it reminds me a lot of when I first started playing this game, like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, however long it was. And so looking at it, you know, I realized that, you know, the M&B Warband, or just M&B community in general, is pretty awesome. And there's a lot of information out there, but you kind of have to look for it. So my idea was to compile short videos. This one will probably be a little longer because of the explanation, but I want to compile a bunch of short little like 5-10 minute tutorial clips of Mount and Blade, of like the frequently asked questions, essentially. You know, how do I make a character? You know, what's a good character? How do I do X, Y, or Z? And I'm gonna put them all out there on the channel under a little playlist, Mount and Blade tutorials, whatever. Big thing for this though is, you know, I've got a couple videos planned out myself already of just the basics, but I need feedback from you guys too. So if any of you do play the game and you don't know how to do something, drop that in the comments section down below, because I want ideas of, you know, what do you struggle with so that I can figure out how to do it if I don't know, make a short video on it, and we'll kind of make the community better. And hopefully make it easier to start off with, because I can't tell you how many people I've heard of where they grab the game, they play it for a couple days, they think it's awesome, and then they run into their first band of like 50 Sea Raiders, and they have this army that's probably, you know, pretty decent, 40 man strong army, you know, like tier 2 infantry or something, and they just get wrecked because they don't know. Or, you know, they have a really good army, but they have no idea how to position their troops. And so again, they get dominated by cavalry or something. And so I want to try and make that less of a problem. But anyhow, to start off with, we're going to create a character, and I'm going to kind of go through how character creation actually changes how you play the game. So given that this is a tutorial series, I'm going to choose what I feel is probably the easiest character to play. I will link down below a page where you can see all of the different stat stuff that is depicted based off of what you choose. That way you can choose a character that fits your playstyle best. But yeah, so basically, long story short, character creation actually kind of sets the pace of the game. So for me, we are going to start with a male. The reason we're starting with the male is because I want to be able to build a strong, cheap army quickly. And so choosing the male category actually gives you +1 strength, so a little bit extra health, harder to die, which is nice, but also +1 charisma, and that's really important. We're going to be stacking charisma pretty harsh to try and get through this as much as possible. So on that note, we're also going to choose an impoverished noble. The reason we're choosing that is it's +1 intelligence, which is good because we want the trainer skill, which is intelligence reliant. And it also gives us +2 charisma. So already we're +3 on charisma. That's 1 additional point into leadership that we can do. The other cool thing about being an impoverished noble son instantly start off with plus 100 renown, which means that you're basically halfway to being able to be a vassal straight off the bat. You get plus 3 honor, plus you start with a banner. So basically, if your father was a noble, as it would have been in medieval times, it's much easier to make a name for yourself. So we're going to choose an impoverished noble, and then next thing that we choose, because again, we're kind of going for that intellect charisma build a little bit, at least to begin with. We'll build some strength stats later on so that we don't die as easy, but we really want trainer and leadership to start off with. So we're going to go with a shop assistant. Now what's kind of cool about this one in particular for new people is not only does it give you plus 1 intellect and plus 1 charisma, so again, building those core stats that you need, it also gives you plus 1 inventory management so you can carry more, and plus 1 to trading, which means that when you sell stuff and when you buy stuff, you don't get penalized as much as you could before. So now we're to what we did as a young adult. Now this one is super important. This is kind of like your game changer choice right here. Now I personally, at least for when I'm trying to be very easy, go for the troubadour. Now a lot of people would think a squire, right? Right off the bat, squire, awesome, yeah. Which is true actually if you want to be a fighter. But since I want to be a kind of leader of people, a troubadour is actually much better. So the troubadour gives you plus 2 to charisma and plus 1 to leadership. So that's already 1 point in leadership that we don't have to spend of our points. This is also one of your item giving choices. So being a troubadour, we also get a horse, we get a sword, and we get a crossbow. Now, particularly for new people, I like using the crossbow because of the archery is really important in this game, long story short. The more people you can kill before they get to you, the much easier it is on your infantry troops. And bows are really quick, so I prefer bows over crossbows in general. However, it's much harder to aim a bow, and you have to learn about arrow drop and stuff, and it's just harder to get accustomed to the archery system in this game if you start off with a bow. However, a crossbow, while you still have to learn about arrow drop and all that, it's much more accurate, and the pins that you use to aim are much closer together straight off the bat, so it's a good starting one. So on the note of what we did as a young adult though, the other thing that I like to point out, if you are new, maybe you don't want to have the best army straight off the bat, but you want to make a bunch of money first. If you're going to do that, I actually recommend going with the peddler. So instead of plus 2 to charisma, you'll get plus 1 intellect and plus 1 charisma, which is good. You'll get some riding skills, you'll get pathfinding, so you'll be quicker. You'll get another point in inventory management, and you'll get another point into trade. So 2 points into trade right off the bat is going to really help. The only downside that I have to a peddler is you don't get a sword. And so you only have the crossbow to work with. You're going to want to pick up a sword ASAP. The upside to it, though, is you start off with goods. You're going to get some linens, you're going to get some pottery and some wool. So with your trade skills and all that, you're going to get a decent amount of profit straight off the bat to start with, which should allow you to buy a cheap sword, get a couple men together, and start running trade caravans across the map. So now we're on to our last choice. I personally prefer the loss of a loved one for this. Again, we're going for the easiest character possible. A loss of a loved one should give us plus 2 charisma and plus 1 to iron flesh. So again, harder to kill, and we can control more men, and they're cheaper. The more men you have, the less you have to worry about being a warrior yourself, and you just need to command them. Not always true when you get into the later battles, but once you're at the later battles, when you're fighting lords and stuff like that, you should have leveled up enough that your character is going to be stronger in the first place. Plus, hopefully, due to the trade skills and whatnot, you'll have better gear. This last one is really just kind of a preferential thing. It's less dictating to your core stats as the other ones were. But with that, that is my general beginning character guide. Now, because we chose to be a impoverished noble son, we get a banner, which means we get to pick one of these guys straight off the bat. I personally like Oh, where's it at? Oh, there's that one. That one's okay. Not really my favorite though. The dragon, that's always a good one. Where's the one that I usually pick? Oh, that's a big one that I like as well. Very, very good, very good. I want to say this one. That's usually the one that I pick. Now for this part, your 2-year game saving policy. This is fairly important actually. A lot of people don't think about it. So realistic, no quitting without saving. Totally cool if you want to do that. That's something that it's really a preferential thing at this point. It does technically make the game harder. So if you allow to quit without saving, what's nice is, so let's say that you have an army of like 100, 150 people, and you're assaulting a castle of like 100, 150 people, right? They technically have the battle advantage because of height and their archers getting to shoot down and whatnot. You could win, you could lose. A lot of it depends on just how the tides sway and what you can do as a commander. So if you can save before making that assault and then, you know, go back and build up that save later, then it's really useful when you're starting because you don't lose as much progress based off of one battle being lost. On the other hand, it's less realistic. And that's kind of what this boils down to. If you're going for the realism of Mount and Blade, this feature, you're going to want realistic. Now, because we're doing a tutorial here, I'm going to go ahead and go with what a beginner should do, preferably, and that's allow to quit without saving. You really want to do that. You know, it's not where I expect you to save after every battle, but when you know what you're getting into and you're going headfirst into a really, really kind of tight situation, it's the time, or rather, it's the time that you really want to be careful with that. So now we are to the character stat page. I am, of course, Turiosaurus. Oh, that's not how you spell my name. There we go, Turiosaurus. As you can see, based off of what we chose, our charisma is already huge. Because of that, I'm not going to put any additional points into it. I am going to put 1 into agility because I like having that at 6 at least. Probably put 1 into intellect and 2 into strength. 45 health is all that I have. So I'm pretty easy to kill right now. And since we are new, we're not going to have that good of an army to start with. I will have to do some fighting, so I'd rather not die in one hit, right? So that's why I put a little bit into strength. We'll probably get this up to 9, and then we'll start building intellect up to 9, and then we'll get charisma to 15, and we should be good to go. So you'll notice that we already have leadership 3, which is pretty darn good. I am going to bump that up to 4 just so that it's maxed out. Now what leadership does is it increases the number of troops we can have, as well as reducing their wages and increasing their morale. So long story short, less likely to desert you, they are cheaper, and you can have more of them straight off the bat. I'm going to have 2 points into trading. That's all that I'm going to put in there, at least for now. But I do want to make as much money as possible in trading to start with, because I'm going to need some money to build up my army. The other thing that I usually do is I get 1 point in prison management. I don't like to do much more than that to begin with because prisoners slow you down, and you really need that when you're starting off. So another thing is trainer. We're going to get 2 points into trainer straight off the bat, kind of max that out. I am going to put 1 into looting. So when we do get into a battle, I really want to do some damage, kill a bunch of people, get more loot to sell. So looting and trade kind of go hand in hand there, right? The more loot I get, I want it to be worth more as well. And then for my final point, I'm going to put that into power draw, actually. You could put it into iron flesh to make yourself harder to kill, but my idea is, because we start with a crossbow, and I know that, my plan is going to be to shoot people in the head from behind my men to start with, and go from there. And to that note, I'm going to put these points into crossbow as well. So now we've created our character, and we have the decision of choosing how we look. I pretty much always go with something fairly simple here. Generally, I got the beard going on. Skin is usually straight off the bat. Shaggy hair, because I have shaggy hair. I start young because I'm young, hair color dark, I have dark hair color. I generally don't spend too much time with this, even though you really can if you want to. So now we are to the final stage of character creation where we choose where we go. Now here, you actually have kind of a deciding factor. The way that I play when I'm starting a new character is pretty much the same every time because it's relatively safe. And you have two ways that you can go about doing it. One of them will take you to Sargoth and the Kingdom of the Nords. Now, if you start in Sargoth with the Nords, big advantage with your units because you're right next to the Vaegrs. You can pick up, like 10, 15 Nords, head over to the outside of the Vaegrs territory. Don't go to the coast because then you'll get killed by Sea Raiders. But over by Ravedan, essentially, which is where you could also go for this tactic, you go over there near their outskirt villages that are kind of near Swadian territory. You pick up, a couple of them, probably another 10 Vaegrs, and then you head over to the land of the Rhodoks. Just so you know, the Rhodoks are the green faction. The reason I head over here is because mountain bandits, while they're pretty strong and they have, pretty decent loot due to the fact that they are stronger, generally speaking, mountain bandits have thrown weapons, so they do more damage, but after you run around them in a circle with your horse a couple times, they will eventually run out of ammo, which makes it a lot easier to kill them. On the other hand, actual archers, such as forest bandits, while they're weaker, they use bows, and so they have 30, 40 arrows that each unit can shoot at you before they run out. It gets a little tiring running in circles that long. So what I think we're going to do is actually the somewhat more risky tactic, and we're going to go to the Kingdom of the Nords. We're going to pick up some Vikings, and then we're going to pick up some Vaegrs, and then we're going to make our way down to where the Rhodoks are and build them up there. Alternatively, if you want to play it completely safe, go straight to Jelkala, pick up those guys. They have great crossbowmen. They have, I believe they can get some cavalry and some infantry. So you can build a half-decent army based off of these guys alone and feed them with mountain bandits. I prefer not to do that because I like to go straight for my endgame army, which is Nords for the Huskarls, Vaegrs for the Vaegr marksmen, and then I pick up my cavalry kind of wherever I decide to pick them up. Sometimes I'll only go Nord and Vaegr, or if I want to be a true, one faction realist, I usually go with the Nords for that. Their infantry is so strong that their lack of cavalry and strength in archery is kind of made up for because it's so dang hard to kill a Huskarl. But we're going to go to the Kingdom of the Nords to begin with, and then the actual final step in character creation is getting through this battle. Now, as you'll notice with the crossbow, it is in fact quite slow. But the other thing you notice is that these crosshairs get pretty dang close to each other when you go to shoot. So if this was a bow, they'd probably be about twice as far out there. Now, the other thing to note with the crossbow is unless I move, those crosshairs kind of lock in one place. Now, what's good about that is that means that you can, in fact, just pull it back, hold it, and wait until the enemy are in range, and then loose it. If this was a bow, you couldn't do that. Your crosshairs would be going all over the place. So we'll talk to the Merchant of Sargoth. I recommend saying that you're interested. He basically gives you free money to get men, which is something you're going to do in the first place. Now, one last piece of information before I head off and call it a video, and that's that little warning at the top screen right there. Most people figure out how to get out of here, but when I first loaded up the game, I don't know if it was in an update or if I just missed it, but I didn't see that warning at the top. And it took me like 15 minutes to figure out how to exit the building. So to leave instances such as this, you click Tab, which takes you to this screen. This screen is, of course, the map screen. You can use the mouse wheel to scroll out. So, quick recap. We went to Sargoth so that we can get Nords. We're going to grab Nords from these outskirt villages by recruiting them. Then we are going to head down here. So we're going to kind of stay near the river, head out here towards Newdar Castle, avoiding the coast to avoid sea raiders as much as possible. Then we'll probably hit Meccan and then come down to Ayike, Tabandra, and Ulberban. And this is where we're going to pick up our Vagers. Now because we're down here away from the snow, we don't need to worry about tundra bandits. We don't need to worry about sea raiders up here. We're relatively safe with our people. We're probably not going to get ambushed. Now, it still can happen because this is a game of RNG, but it's much less likely. So with that, I actually think that I'm going to call this an episode. Our next one will probably be building up your army, getting through that first quest, and where to go from there. But for this one, I hope you guys have found it useful. Again, any ideas or suggestions, please put them down in the comments, and I will see you all next time.